Okay, so thanks, Ilana, for a great introduction. So, in addition to being part of the a member of the steering committee, I'm also a CDO of a company called Proligence. And at Proligence, we focus on orchard. From the beginning, our mission was to build great software on orchards. So this is our specialty, and we benefited a lot from the community. This project has been we started using it in version 0 point something, and it was light years away from what we have now. So yeah, and our clients are also very happy uh, from the choice of the CMS that we are using. So um, we're trying to give back to the community because we focus on orchards. So it's like our whole business is built around this one open source project. So I guess it's the best way of saying thank you to the community is to just give back what we for not all the things, because not all code can be contributed, especially the domain-specific stuff, and sometimes clients don't agree to. But we encourage our clients to allow us to open source as many things as possible that could be beneficial to the community, and we do that, and it's our way of saying thank you. Um, it's the best way of saying thank you, maybe besides cold cash donations. Yeah. We are sponsoring the conference, so it's also a case here, but I'd rather contribute code, obviously. So I handpicked 3 of the projects we've developed over time, and we reuse in virtually any project we built with Orchard. There are like 20 of them. I'll give you a link to our Bitbucket account at the end of this presentation. But I would like to focus on those 3, which are, I guess, the ones that most of you would benefit from. So the first one is the Orchard testing library. So what it does, it makes unit testing of Orchard modules, components, stuff that you have inside, the dynamic objects, shapes, way easier. Because during our few years of development with Orchard, we found out that it's kind of hard to do proper unit testing on all the Orchard components, especially the content manager, the shapes, which are dynamic objects. These are the things they have a lot of dependencies inside. So in order to do a good unit testing, we would have to mock up all the whole orchard. So it could be a fairly complex task. So in order to make our lives and your lives easier, we built the library, helpful library that contains all the necessary mocks for all the core libraries, core components like notifier, content manager, the content definition manager, and everything, virtually anything that you can find inside Orchard. A lot of helpers and extension methods to any unit that allows you to do a verification of a certain assertions that you created, verification, Orchard specific verification. And what's the most important thing, we provide base fixture classes for your unit tests. So for example, when you want to unit test a driver for your content part, and the driver is, it can be a complex method, and it returns that has displayed with display and editor methods. So you return shape from that. So it can be fairly complex, and it's really hard to actually do it by hand. So we created a fixture classes for all those things like driver, helper, content part, content type, handler. Yes, so virtually any class that can be unit tested in Orchard in normal production line of business applications, because this is our case. We mostly focus on line of business applications, not some public-facing websites. So I encourage you to visit the link at the end of the slide. We use Bitbucket for all of our source control. So on our account, bitbucket.org/proligence, you can find all various stuff. Not everything is yet open source, but we plan to open a lot of our projects, but we still need to wait for to be able to have permission from the clients. So it's based on an unit and it's based on mock, which is quite standard. And to give you some examples of using this library, so the first example, so using the authorizer mock. So in this case, we created a mock of Orchard services also, which contains a mock of everything that is inside Orchard services. So you could call deny without. There are lots of new extension methods that allow you to call the authorizer for a specific item, specific permission, and in a mockable, in mocked way. So it won't call all the Orchard internals. And this is a very simple example. So it tests. I love those long unit tests. Yeah, and they do not wrap when you have a lot of text. Yeah. Display should not create shape when user is not authorized. So it's self-descriptive. So we test here that the display method of the Orchard driver of some part, that underscore part is some private variable that's defined somewhere inside the text fixture. So it doesn't matter what it is, but we just test whether the shape is contained within the result of the driver display method. So we assert that the results build shape market extension method that allow you to build a mocked shape that has different methods for testing internal items, for example, what does it contain, how many children are there, and stuff in a strongly typed way. So so we can move from dynamic to more controllable. So dynamic is not that controllable. But so this is the first example, very simple one, to just testing a driver. The second one is testing content handlers. These methods that are in bold, and it was previously in bold here, these are the things that are provided by the library. And this is a method, when I said before, we provide base classes for test fixtures. So this test is contained within a content handler testing fixture. So this whole test fixture class is a content handler fixture, which contains a lot of methods for invoking the content handler directly without having to go through Orchard Content Manager and reflection, and because those methods are invoked internally. So that's why I said that unit testing in Orchard can get pretty complicated. So we just wrapped it up, all the complexity, and put it inside those, for example, those methods, invoke, activating context. So it simulates invoking the activating event in Orchard, and we assert that at the end we have some output. Next example, using the content manager mock. It's the most commonly used component when you do unit testing, because content managers, content in Orchard is everywhere. So in this example, I have a content type called a directory. It's an example taken from a real, all examples are taken from a real code. We built a site that had a hierarchy of directories and files, so it's like a project file management solution. So this tests if the directory gets created only when it does not exist. So we create new content manager mock. We create our new directory to be created, and we put some assertions. Those extension methods on the content manager mock do assertions for us. So we want to expect that the new item, exactly this item, will be created, and that this item will be a draft, and that this item will be published during the process. And those expectations will be tested with the verify all. So we put our assertions. We now call the file manager. It's a component inside our application. Get or create directory, some directory and string empty. And we assert that the result is the same as the new directory object. And the title part is equal to this one. And then comes the verification of all the content manager. So this is the most complex thing inside the library. It's the content manager mock. So you can do a lot of put a lot of expectations on what should be output, and then test it. So this is the testing library. So I encourage you to look at our Bitbucket account and see for yourself if it's useful for you. Any bug that you can find. I'm all ears to hear that. You can write them down in the Bitbucket. On the Bitbucket, I guess there is an issue tracker in there, and code contributions are also greatly welcome if you find something that is not there, or just throw in some ideas that would be useful to do. So we could do it in the future. So this is the first one, the simplest one. The next one is something we call the Astoria Framework. I don't know where the name came from, but it sounded like a nice code name. So later I found out that there was some Microsoft project with the same code name, but it's not that one. It's our Astoria Framework. So in short, this is a framework for very quick implementation of backend services and APIs with a focus on high performance. So our requirement, which led us to build this framework, was that we had a few large projects in which we had to move some of the functionalities outside of Orchard, but still being able to, without the overhead of communicating with that. So it should be accessible to all other Orchard services and components, like a local thing, but it's external. So we needed to focus on performance. So first, we needed to have a way to externalize it, put it on some external machine, or just in an external process, and then communicate with that in a very performant way, and then plug it in seamlessly to Orchard. So, and this requirement was made sense because those pieces of functionality required a lot of computing power. So it was something similar to a recommendation system. So it processed a lot of data, a lot of user event data, what user clicked on the site, when did he go, how many times he spent, and so on. So and it ran a very, very complex algorithm that took time, and it couldn't just happen inside Orchard. It had to be externalized, and we had to communicate with that in some manner. So, and this is the first scenario. The next scenarios can be some, for example, security, when you don't want to have some critical code inside Orchard, but you need to, which runs on, for example, DMZ, which is not that secure as your internal network, and you need to make it work inside your network, and similar scenarios. So. So we built the framework for that to make our life easier. Like every lazy developer, we lazy developers, we want our computers to do stuff for us, and to do that we build frameworks. So in the future, things can be done with as little development effort as possible. So this whole project is also available on Bitbucket. On Bitbucket, and the second link is the module in Orchard that integrates it all. So to give you an idea, the next slide, what actually this framework does, because the framework is a fake word. So we use WCF at the beginning. I know that not everyone loves WCF, but we had to have a strongly typed interfaces, all the error handling code, and so we didn't have actually a choice. So we took WCF, and what the framework does, it provides classes and wrappers that you only need to implement the main the methods that you want to surface through the WCF, and all the code that's related to running this as a separate Windows service, as also or as a in-process host, or installing it as a Windows service and stuff. It's all there. So you just need to grab the code, create your own project, put your necessary code inside that one, recompile it, and you will have an MSI that you can put anywhere on this on the network, and connect with that through the Orchard module. So we have a module that has a built-in network scanning. So you can just create a Windows service containing WCF service inside. Put it on the computer on a network somewhere, and click the button Auto Detect, and it will detect all the services running in your network and allow you to choose which one interface should be plugged into Orchard. And that interface will be available as any interface, like iNotifier, Content Manager, or my external service. We use dynamic proxying for making the whole communication work. So you don't have to touch any WCF stuff. It just works. So we just create an API, run it on some server, just type it manually or auto detect, and you're done. So this is the what I just said is just the part that simplifies the development process. But we also needed to have a very robust monitoring system and self-checkup. So if a service fails or something wrong happens inside, we needed to be aware of that. So also this whole framework provides watchdog mechanism. So you can provide your own watchdogs to watch the specific parts of the API, how they behave, and send information back. Performance counters, of course, and configurable logging, which uses nlog by default. There is also a PowerShell CLI interface in that, so you can manage the service through PowerShell. And easy customizable deployment, what I said before, service installation, event log, and performance counter creation. So there is a Wix project, so the Wix installer project inside the whole solution. So that contains everything that you need to set up this API. So you just write code, run the MSI somewhere on the network, and you're done. You just need to, during the installation process, you just need to provide the authentication credentials, because the service needs to run under some account on the machine, and it will create performance counters, event logs. So everything by default is logged by nlog to the Windows event log. So you have, if you have my service application built on this framework, you run it on your machine, you will have a my service log in event logs that will automatically contain everything. So this saved us a lot of development effort, a real lot of development effort, because we have like tens of different APIs running on different machines for different clients, and without that, we would need to write everything from scratch. And it's also, forgot to mention about the performance. We focus on performance. So it's, I said WCF, but it's not ordinary WCF. We changed the default serialization mechanism to use the protocol buffers. Do you know what protocol buffers are? You're familiar with the term? So this is a serialization protocol that was created by Google to have a very small message size, very small and very quickly serializable and deserializable. So it's basically a binary format, and it makes so basically this service running on this framework on a commodity server with, I don't know, 2 gigs of RAM can handle hundreds of thousands of requests per second. So it's really fast. We use TPL and async stuff inside, so it's really fast. So this project is huge, and this is just the beginning. I just quickly wrapped up all the main functionalities and told you about the most core ones, but it would be great if you could see for yourself if you could use that. So it's basically for WCF what Orchard is for ASP.NET. At least it's our goal with this project. And what I left for as the last project, which is, in my opinion, the project that the whole community will benefit a lot from, is the Orchard PowerShell. So what it is, our requirement was that we had a project in which the client was moving from SharePoint to a custom application built on Orchard, and the SharePoint application contained hundreds of thousands of files, directories, projects, and it was a real massive amount of data in there. So they needed to move that data somehow from SharePoint to Orchard, and they didn't want to use a 2 or 3 step process. So get it back, do some processing, and then push it back. They wanted to make it direct. So we had to figure out how to do it in PowerShell. And the default Orchard CLI, the orchard.exe file, it's not that suitable for scripting, especially when you need to do some complex processing in the script. When you want to have the power of PowerShell. So what we did, we wrapped up the Orchard command system inside the PowerShell provider, and basically made the PowerShell shell for Orchard. So what are the main features of this project? So we have a PowerShell provider, which is when you want to do a PowerShell plugin for any of those projects. So you have to write a PowerShell provider, which handles all the communication, the protocol and stuff. And it includes the Orchard PowerShell drive. There is an exclamation mark at the end. I will show you why in the next slide. It's the coolest thing about this whole project is the virtual PowerShell drive. we wrapped up standard PowerShell commandlets like copying, get items, copy item, move item, delete item, and mapped them to do some stuff inside Orchard. So I'll give you examples in the next slide. And there are also extensibility features, so base classes, interfaces that you can use to create your own custom commandlets inside your own modules. So, so you can create a custom commandlet in your module like you would create any other command, normal command in Orchard, and it will get picked up by the PowerShell provider. We support all legacy commands. So by legacy, I mean the commands that are inside Orchard exe. So like get, I don't know, list tenants, enable feature, disable feature, and things like that. Enable theme, disable theme, create module, create code gen, and things like that. And also support for running PowerShell scripts. So it can be scripted with. So you can basically do any automation with that. And what I promised, examples. So how it works is that you have an Orchard command prompt, and what comes next is the folder structure. So we mapped Orchard insides into a folder structure. So you have the most top folder, the root folder is tenants. Inside there is a, if you would go to change directory to tenants and do a ls on that, you'll have a list of all the tenants. And for all the tenants, we have features, content types, content items, and so you can move through Orchard internals like you would move through ordinary drive. So you have folders, tenants, features, and modules, and these are the things that are in Orchard. And if you go inside one of those, for example, we want to enable all features on the current tenant, the default one, which starts with the letter A. So we just go cd tenant, cd default, cd features, and get child item a pipe enable Orchard feature. So it's easy as that. So you could even create more complicated things, but this is just a simple example. So there is a, starting from the beginning, there is a command for get all available Orchard commandlets. So get Orchard ps command all. This is the help stuff. Next thing is what I call the legacy Orchard command. So the way to invoke Orchard command, like a list of themes, to get a list of themes. So invoke Orchard command. There is a shortcut IOC theme list. It will /summary tree. It will work like an ordinary Orchard CLI, and it's very useful. And for example, when you go to the root, we can call get child items and use the normal / directory structure format to call the commandlet in the context of something. Like in this case, it's the default tenant. We want to list all the features of default tenant. So it's like ls on this folder. The last example, get tenant, disable, enable tenant, for example. Beautiful. So it opens up a lot of possibilities. So with this, we were able to move stuff from SharePoint to Orchard with just the PowerShell script without any intermediate steps. So it's you have all the power of PowerShell in it. So this is a screenshot of how it all looks like. So we try to make it nice as well. So get .ps command all, it will list you all the commandlets, and you can also, it's an ordinary PowerShell commandlet, so you can invoke this in the context of, for example, certain tenant, and you will get only the commandlets that are available for this tenant. So this is, it's extremely extensible, like the whole PowerShell is. There are a lot of, it's not that simple to implement that, because there is a lot of marshalling, serialization stuff, because the PowerShell instance and the PowerShell provider, they do not run inside the same process. So especially when we work with Orchard records, which are dynamic proxies, it's hard to move them across the app domain boundaries. So, but we somehow managed to do that. There is it was really complicated, but really nice to, when you saw the effect, yeah, this was worth. And we think that at some point this will get into the core, and maybe in better format, thanks to contributions. And someday we could have it inside Orchard, and we have the old normal PowerShell CLI like we have for every big project, Exchange, or things like that. So we could have our own console for remote administration, automation, and others. So these were the 3 projects that I just picked up because they're the most, you could benefit, all of you can benefit a lot from them. But what we do and what you find on our Bitbucket account, we do a lot of geeky stuff, work on SignalR. There are modules for SignalR, for push notifications. If you have a single page application, that's great. Using SignalR to do Orchard notification. Modules for integration with external services. We use SendGrid a lot. We use New Relic, so we have modules to integrate with those, so you can find them useful as well. For issue tracking, so you can track and send bugs and user-provided feedback and automated feedback into UTrack or Jira. We use UTrack a lot, but we also plan to implement Jira. It's in the works now. Modules for virtual currency. So this is something that we're going to have inside Orchard Pros. And ... There is a lot more spanning from Oculus Rift, integration with Orchard, which we did for a client project. We did stuff for a virtual sightseeing. It was actually for teaching employees of the topography of certain buildings. And we used 3JS with WebGL, Orchard, and Oculus Rift. And it was a prototype project, but it was awesome. And Arduino stuff, NetDuino stuff, everything is there, so everyone can find something useful, whether for hobby projects or for enterprise ones. So take a look and get in touch if you want. If you have any questions, I'm here and I'm available under either my private email, my corporate email, or the main mailbox. So if you have any questions, just drop an email or just ask today or tomorrow and the day after. Thanks.
Questions from the audience?
I'm really interested in using the PowerShell module that you built, and I was so interested that I went to your CodePlex site and downloaded it and stuck it in my Orchard area, right here, or Proligence PowerShell in the modules section.
Yeah,
and I couldn't turn it on, so I'm wondering, is there a way to use it?
Yeah, yeah. You know, with PowerShell, the PowerShell thing is that okay.
We can talk later.
We can talk later.
Okay.
Yeah, because it's not that simple. There is a tutorial, I guess, or it will be today or tomorrow, because it's not that simple that you can just throw the module in there. There is an exe file with the scripts which you have to put into bin folder. But I think it should be written in the documentation.
I'll read the documentation.
Read it up.
Thanks.
Yeah, and we can talk later about it.
Other questions?
So Astoria is it an alternative to Web API or Service Stack, or is it something more than that, or is it less than that?
You're speaking about the Astoria project.
Astoria.
Yeah.
And it's not really an Orchard thing, right? Astoria
No,
is
it's
just
not
its own
Orchard thing. Yeah, I just mentioned it because we used it with Orchard, and it contains the Orchard, the module for integration with Orchard specifically. But it's not a replacement. You can use it's just a wrapper around a WCF service. WCF for now, but we plan to support multiple transport methods. So like SignalR, like Web API, using ON. But right now we use WCF because it's reliable, and we needed reliability. And so this is a wrapper around the service. It provides you with all the information, all the components for installing, running it, so you can focus only on writing the API. So you only write the code that relates to your business needs, and all the things around. Just recompile it, and in the bin folder you can find the MSI to install it, and some scripts, and all the stuff needed to make it run. So the output, usually what we use, because we use MSI automation to run it on the server, so we just spit out the MSI, and you don't have to do anything else.
Other questions?
So, judging from project Astoria, you are probably the guys who maybe thought about doing the following, using Orchard as a framework. Have you thought about that? So just the Orchard framework, maybe Orchard.core, without the whole web application in a separate application.
Yeah, we thought about it, and in some projects we always use the web side of Orchard, but depending on the project, we stripped it out. But we didn't try to use only the Orchard framework library. So we always had the whole thing, but stripped out without unnecessary modules. But the core was always there. So we didn't try, for example, from what I figure out from the question, that we didn't try getting Orchard framework library, putting it inside, I don't know, Windows process somewhere and running something with that. No. We use Orchard for the web. And
All right. Thank you very much.